America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and we're coming to you live from Flanagan Studio in the Triangle Plaza in Athens, Georgia. And I'm going to talk about some black people stuff today, because this is going to be the ADOS conference review. Matthew and I went to the ADOS conference last weekend, and it was wonderful. I'll say it again, it was wonderful. Next year, they announced they're doing it again. We're all going. I'm looking at you, beautiful people. And I'm looking at you, Sin, and I'm looking at everybody else. We'll fundraise for it, but I'll worry about that next in months. But I want to get a bus together, and I want to take some high school kids. Everybody needs to see it. And we're going to talk about it. I'm going to go over some highlights, and it was just a wonderful experience.
Apparently, we're not bots.
We're not bots. We're people. We're full-grown Negroes. Matthew, did you see people there?
Yeah. There's a bunch of people there. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came up to us personally, or everyone who just wanted a picture with us, or everyone who just said, "Hey, we do the show for you. We do it to educate you. We do it to make you more politically organized and politically aware." That's the goal of the show.
I actually wasn't even there, and I need to thank people because my following on Twitter went up. I have a bunch of new friends on Facebook.
You'll be there next year.
Yeah.
No. Just, next year we're taking the whole family. We're getting a bus.
I had trouble to cause here.
Yeah, well, you're coming next year.
I may have made some comments that.
Yeah. Yeah. So ADOS conference was a smashing success. And I say this as a guy who's been to 6,000 or 7,000 conferences. This was one of the best experiences I've had at a conference, because it was black people being honest about what it means to be a black person without trying to get some sort of job at the end of it, or chase a white check or try to be bougie. Everyone was just honest about, this is where black people are, this is where we need to go, and this is what we need out of our government. It was wonderful. Yvette Carnell did a job. Antonio Moore did a job, and we're going next year.
Yvette talked about the night after the second night that it was very much a family feeling. She's like, it was a cookout.
It was not even cookout, because everyone was getting on the same page. It was because sometimes the families fight.
Yeah. Yes.
Talk about this kind of stuff, and sometimes families fight. No, everyone was pretty much on the same page, and we need to figure out a way to get ours, black people. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful event, and I strongly suggest you go next year. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Cosby, and thank you, Cornel West. And thank you, Matthew, for coming. We had a little car trouble coming back on the way back, so I got stuck in Knoxville, which is a place, yeah. So that was a little bit of a hiccup, but I was so high from the conference that, and I mean high
emotionally.
I'm a bit of a straight edge teetotaler. Plus, everyone there was just about business. It was great. It was great. A great event. And so I'm going to go over some highlights after we hit the beat. Go ahead and do it, Matthew.
To the beat, y'all. Yeah. Sound good to me. Never change the ways for the world or the government. If I was the president, then I would state facts. You leave it up to me, I paint the White House black and it can feature in your front.
Good. All right. So first, I have my notes, because I take a lot of notes, right? So Cornel West, fantastic speech. One highlight was when he said, when you care about someone, that means you love them, protect them, and correct them. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
You love them, protect them, and correct them. That's what happens when you care about people. And you don't love black people because they are worthy. You love black people because they are worthy, not because they're going to love you back. Because some black people got other things on their mind, right? But you love them because they're worthy, not because they're going to love you back. And some things are more important than life. I need everybody to be a little bit less risk averse in support of black freedom, right? That's supposed to be one of the lessons of the cross. Jesus said, let us not be niggers. that was we would not be And we should go around, let the spirit of Jesus deniggerize you. So like, we cannot be scared.
That was an interesting conversation that was going on in one of the groups while you guys were gone. Yeah. That someone was talking about the state's attorney in Maryland, and if we don't protect her, we don't deserve freedom. I'm like, no. We must remember that no one of us is more important than all of us.
That's true.
Because it has to be the attitude.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, anyone who loves black people will be criminalized. Just get used to it. There's always been backlash. There's always been backlash. So if you're gonna say, see, we can do good for black people, but not worry about the backlash. No, there's gonna be backlash. So instead of getting people, instead of trying to bring people into the movement by telling them that there won't be backlash and we can protect them from the backlash, we need to start gearing people up for the backlash. And say like, yeah, like it's gonna get
comfortable.
Yeah, get comfortable. Like, I don't know, strap in because it's gonna be bumpy. As opposed to just saying like, no, it won't be bumpy. Nah, it's gonna be bumpy. The any road between here and justice for black people is going to include bumps. Like it's
Appalachian mountain-sized bumps.
Yeah, like yes. So this whole idea that you can organize for racial justice, but tell people that there won't be backlash, or that like we can do it without pissing off white people, no.
Andrew Jackson said that Dr. King tried to teach he and Jesse Jackson two things: lack of a love of self and a lack of love of wealth, because those are the only way they were going to do this work.
That was the only way. It's the truth. The truth. You don't do this work to get rich, but there are a lot of wealthy people who are. Everyone's scared of white people. Wealthy people are scared of white people. Poor people are scared of white people. I talked to a wealthy lady the other day, and she was telling me how much she was scared of white people. And she was a wealthy white lady. Because as much yeah, she's still scared. Because you know what? Other wealthy white ladies are punitive. Even whatever power they have, they're bad at wielding it. They'll say, like, we don't have power. Yeah, they do. They're wealthy white ladies. And they're bad at wielding it, so they'll be completely punitive. So everyone's scared of white people. Everybody's scared. White women, white men, everyone's just scared of them because they're punitive. So you just have to be willing to understand that what it is to love black people is to be criminalized. That's part of the gig. And, Gandhi said, and I do believe that this is right, that, these people use the fear of jails in order to keep you from doing good work. So as long as you're scared of going to jail, or as long as you're scared of being criminalized, you're never going to really do good work for anybody. That doesn't mean you run to jail, but it does mean
don't make it easy.
Don't make it easy, but don't run to it. But it does mean that when it comes, you got to do it like a soldier does battle, and you go when you're called. Doesn't mean you start wars, but it means that when you're called, you go. All right. So. All right, so there's this cat Yarmouth, right? Congressman Yarmouth said two things that were funny, and I want Matthew to chime in on this. There are two things that were funny. Two things that are funny, and then I'm going to play a clip from the vet. The first thing he said, and I want both Matt and Sin to chime in. He said, you know what? I'm the one, this Congressman Yarmouth, nice white guy from Kentucky, Democrat. He's like, I'm the one who wrote and got the bill passed where you can get your student loans forgiven if you work in the public sector and you make 120 consecutive payments. I'll say this again.
That's like 10 years. That's 10 years.
That's 10 years without bumps. Black people. All right. Like sometimes when I shave, gets bumpy. gets bumpy.
I'm just trying to think of the last bill bumps. I've gone 10 years straight paying consecutively.
Consecutive bill. You need to pay what? He's like, well, no, this is great. I'm a Democrat, so this is what I do. Black people, that's not about us. We aren't the people who can do 120 consecutive payments.
Does it count if they're taking it out of my disability by force?
You need to be working for the public sector. What that also means is you can't get fired from your job. And how good of an advocate for black people can you be if you can't lose a job for black people?
You can't say no to anything.
You can't. What did you think when you heard of that, man?
I was shocked. He came up with like very confident, like he thought this was a very good plan, but like you have to be in the public sector and making 120 consecutive payments. Like if you have a business idea or like any type of idea that involves risk or whatever, you can't take it. You have to work and follow these rules in order to get your loan forgiven.
So pretty much it's indentured servitude to the state because it's got to be a public sector job. You can't you have a business venture, you can't do that anymore. Like 8 years into your job, you got to now keep for another 2 years before you start your own business.
Yeah, and by the time you start making the payments, you're like 40 or 30.
No. And people, remember when we're talking about student loan forgiveness. So the clock's not going to start with black people in their 20s. Because you're not getting 10 years of straight anything in your 20s. You might be able to start that when you're 35 and then put 10 years on.
I still can't get student loan forgiveness. I have 20% cardiac function. It don't get better. I'm on my second defibrillator and they're still like, let us take our $100, actually $150 a month out of your little $850 a check, which, by the way, I learned I'm above the medium.
So we stay poor. If that's what relief looks like, we stay poor. 120 consecutive payments. 120 consecutive payments. Then you get your loans forgiven. If we were the kind of people who could put together 120 consecutive payments.
Who gets 100? Who has enough? How much student debt is that?
Money.
Yeah, like y'all want to approve us for that much money.
People with family money.
Yeah.
Or what's more insidious is that it ties you to a single government job where you can't actually stand up for risk of getting fired and missing a payment. Like that's another insidious thing. And black people, if we can't shoulder risk, there's not going to be justice for black people. So any sort of it's a payoff. It ends up being functionally a political payoff because if you can't risk losing your job, then you can't actually be.
And not a very good one. Not a good payoff.
No. 120 consecutive payments. He said that number, and I was like, Chico, what?
Does consecutive mean something differently?
How do you pull together 120 consecutive payments as a black person in their 20s?
Yeah.
Who needs loans?
Yeah.
Who needed student loans?
You can't pull together 120 consecutive days you ate good food. How are you going to make
120 consecutive? I can't even make 12. Someone in chat just said, I can't even make 12. Yeah, I think if you make 12, you should get a chip or something. You should get a chip? I don't like that.
My longest credit account has not had my longest and best credit account has not received 120 payments. 120? It's not like we're not at 100.
I happen to have about a year and a half ago I paid off my student loans. I'm 42. It just wouldn't happen.
Well, you had to pay your student loans off before you got out of school because you're not getting a job.
I'm not getting a job because I say some things like 120 consecutive payments is white supremacy. That's what if that's what relief looks like. You're just low grade white supremacy. You just don't know because that's not about black life.
No.
I paid for 5 and then I had to defer.
Someone said I paid for 5 and now I had to defer. Yeah, I tried.
Look. She better than me. I very quickly was like, oh, let me get an extension. Oh, I'm on disability. Let me appeal.
Talk about reparations being 120 consecutive payments. Right,
yes, that's what we wanted, 120 payments.
That's one thing Yarmouth said that made the whole room go, okay, I guess you don't know how this works. Do you know anything about black people? So a little white guy, congressman. I'm glad he came.
I saw part of his.
Know if he's gonna come back. Do you think he's gonna? He kind of at the end of it, he kind of scooted out a little bit.
Yeah, he was clutching his pocketbook the whole time. He just walked straight out of there.
Bounce.
Not what he was expecting.
No, he's not be happy. And the other plan he had, which amused me, was he's like, look, I have a reparations plan. To which everyone in the audience said, "Ooh, what do you have in mind, Congressman Yarmouth?" He's like, "Look, I went to excuse me, I went to Yale. Yale's got like a $34 billion endowment, and they've already bought up all of New Haven, so they actually can't spend the money." He said, "I have a hard time spending the money." And then he said, what we should do is make them, and we can do this without raising taxes, and we can do it without even creating resentment among white people. And
Lies.
Yeah. Exactly. So anytime someone says we can do reparations without creating resentment about white people, they're not talking about reparations. So and then he said this, and that's when I really knew. Oh, okay, this is the white people we're dealing with. He said, what we can do is take 2% of Yale's endowment and give it to HBCUs. 2%.
But we built 100% of this country.
Yeah. So we can take 2% of money white people can't even spend.
We can have that.
We can have the
We can't figure out how to spend this money, so we'll give you 2% of it.
And the rest will sit. Like, that's not it. They probably make 7 or 8% off the interest
alone,
on the
yeah.
capital gains, like on the endowment, and they don't pay taxes on it. So we're not even getting their interest. We're getting like a percentage of their interest.
Not even half the interest.
Not even half the interest.
2%.
2%. A whole 2%, huh?
2% of the endowment, just for you, Negroes.
And he
we are 14, 13, 12% of the population, and Yarmouth is talking about justice being 2% of their extra, of Yale's extra.
Lord.
So that was a problem.
Okay.
But like the only thing I like 2% of is my milk.
And I'm not gonna lie, I've gotten away from even that. I'm like
2%. Why bother? No, it was. So yeah, 2% of Yale's endowment is not justice.
Army, you never know. That could be a lot of money.
No,
I mean, it's probably a couple of $1 million.
a couple $100 million.
Couple $100 million.
But
why shouldn't we be happy with that?
40 million of it. This actually ties into Yvette, and I have a clip from Yvette talking because I thought she put it better than I can recap. She said, money only means something relative to other money. And so let's play that clip.
Sometimes the rhetoric doesn't match the budget. So money always has to be seen in the context of other money, right? So somebody can come into a room and say, we put $10 million towards that. Nobody knows that this was a multi-billion-dollar program, so $10 million is nothing. And then sometimes the money moves. When it gets to committee, that money moves. It's not where it was supposed to be, or it's not what we thought it was going to be, or it's not the allotment that we were actually sitting and waiting for. So in terms of ordinary citizens in this room, when money starts to move, what's the best way to keep track of it? We know we have the committee meetings. We know we have all these subcommittees. What's the best way to keep track of the money movement and the money in proportion to the other money that's also being allotted? Because anybody can say $1 million. It sounds like a bunch of money until you find out what the other money is. Sometimes the rhetoric doesn't.
Money only means something relative to other money. So all of these people trying we end up. This is how black people end up selling ourselves out for cheap, because we don't know what they pay white people. Like, we don't know white salaries, we don't know white lifestyles, we don't know. So
and once you look into it, you do not settle for less.
No, you shouldn't, because you realize that your money is not real money. It's just, what's left over. It's that 2% that's left over, the stuff they can't see.
I mean, 2% of what you couldn't figure out how to spend.
2%.
Only 2%.
2% of what you can't figure out how to spend. That's what he was offering us.
Huh? Wow.
Yeah. So
And probably very proud of that offer.
very proud of it. He's like, I figured it out. He was like, y'all move this.
He's like, he was expecting a standing ovation probably to that.
2%. So it's actually very important because, like, a lot of us are broke. So we don't know how much money is because we don't know how much other people can throw around, right? And if you're not in the room where the budgets happen and you don't see it allotted, and you don't go to like a planning commission meeting or a city council meeting and watch these white contractors come in with their hands out and get like $3 million contracts, $10 million contracts to build or whatever, you think that your little $50,000 contract means something. And they want you to think that, and these white people, listen, they want you to be grateful for their pennies. Yarmouth fully expected us to be grateful for that 2%.
Let them eat cake.
Well, yeah, it's just they fully expected us to be grateful. Fully expected us to be grateful for like suggesting Yale give us 2% of money they can't spend.
Yale, one college, one school.
Yeah,
not even the country.
He was just like, well, maybe we do it for like all the top 25 schools. And I was like, whatever. Still, we're still talking about 2%.
Maybe we could do it out of the GPD. Now you're starting to make me care.
Yeah. GDP, 2% of GDP. No, let's talk about 20%. That would be like the 13% of the population we are, plus like extra for interest. And especially states like Oregon, who just let cut black people out of everything. We should just get this a straight like siphon, just a big straw from Oregon to like Georgia Southern. the whole state of Oregon, just a big straw. Just like we just get 20% off the top of all of the GDP of that whole state. Just like goes right to Tuskegee. All right, so Yarmouth, 2% of Yale's 120 consecutive payments, 2% of Yale's GDP, and then that's very good analysis, I think, of how we get confused about money because we don't know about other money. So people come to your hood and say, like, we have a scholarship for $500. First of all, it's a scholarship for $500. Scholarship for $500 when tuition's thousands.
And books are $700.
It's just an invitation into debt. It's an invitation into debt. That's not a serious plan because you don't know how much the things cost, and you don't know that other scholarships are like full rides. So money only makes sense in terms of other money.
The other thing that I noted that Yvette said was stability plus community better than wealth.
Yeah, stability.
Like people don't understand how unstable our communities are. 120 payments. Like people don't get that we don't even have a sense of stability because everyone around us is in the exact same boat. So like, my neighbor needs something. Yeah, I share it. But I know I'm going to need to borrow back. And that's just going to be the consistent pattern.
Right. Like, this is one thing. We talked to an insurance guy in the parking lot after the conference. And he was like, yeah, every black community thinks that other black communities are doing well. But I travel all across the United States. It's bad everywhere. It's bad. Like, anytime there's a congregation of 2 or 3 of these, like, there's poverty, there's deferred maintenance. Like, check the water. Like any significant percentage of black people in any place in the United States looks like a hood because there's not money. There isn't a concentration of black people who are doing well, and everybody thinks that the black people over there are. No, and the ones who are living around white people, so they have their own issues, right? So in terms of black communities, none of them are doing well. We need to be honest with that and stop pretending that some people are living like they're living in power or...
It's like a thermostat almost. We have a different set point.
It's like a thermostat. We have a different set point. Yeah, so there's got to be...
I tolerate 74. Think he went at 68. I'm like, I can't afford that.
I didn't know people live at 68. Ooh. This is nicer. I just thought summer meant, I guess I got to do it at 74.
The condenser went out on my air conditioner at my new place.
Nicer.
And I'm telling you, the fact that it still didn't get above 80, I was like, hold up. These walls actually have insulation. Is that what this is like? And I don't know if you saw my post. I made a joke on Facebook. I posted a picture of Fred.
Fred Hampton?
No.
Fred Smith?
No, not an actual activist. George Jefferson doing his little happy dance. When I realized that food will deliver to my neighborhood. They will deliver food to my neighborhood. I now live in a place where they would deliver food. They would not deliver food over to my old place. Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm moving on up. I got the little improvement.
And this is what people... this is a great thing. All right, so we think that, well, black people just need to own stuff. Black people need to own stuff. That is true. Black people do need to own stuff. But we also need to own stuff next to infrastructure. So, like, it's not enough for you to just get, like, your little plot of land out in the middle of nowhere with no roads. Because, like, and a lot of the good places are already taken, which means black people need to force white people to put some of this stuff on the market. And then, so that's what we need policy for. That's what we need to start using eminent domain for. Instead of building stadiums that kick black people out, we need to say, like, all right, so we need to take some of your granddaddy's daddy's land and parcel it out to black. We'll have a little auction that's just like only black people can go to. And because white people aren't selling. And that's a problem. We need to force land, good land that's next to roads and clean water supplies on the market. Generational land.
They only sell it to each other.
Yeah, they may sell it to each other or have like a secret auction tell white people.
Stays in the family.
But they're not, it's not out there. So even if you have money, people be like, well, reparations check. I'll talk about that. Reparations check, that will save us. I was like, yeah, not if they're not selling. Not if you're not selling. This was why Jay-Z had to sell out all of the whole black race. Because he wanted to be an owner in an NFL team, and they weren't selling. Like, that was part of the admission. I need you to sell out all your people, then I'll let you buy in to whatever. What team did he buy into?
I don't know. I haven't paid attention to the NFL
in a while.
I'm
sure Chat knows what team he bought into. You know what team he bought into? Yeah, I think he got like a 1% of some team. But his money wouldn't spend until they wanted to sell some of it to him. And one of the conditions was he would be their little Negro handler.
And he's already having problems with that job. He's already had an artist turn down the Super Bowl. Like, Rihanna's like, I'm good. Yeah, she turned down the Super Bowl show. She was like, I'm not going to sell out. Literally her words.
I don't need it. Really.
Fenty Beauty is going through the roof.
They'll end up with Beyonce again. All right, so so in terms of cash money, what's funny is the reparations discussion. Marianne Williamson was there, and I like her fine. And she was like, well, I think I can get 200 to 500 billion for reparations, cash reparations. And the audience was like, I don't know, that's not a lot of zeros. That's like there are 400 million of us, and that's just not enough zeros, and we're going to need trillions. And then Antonio was like, how about you just let us hold about 500 million while
y'all work it out. While y'all work the rest.
Which I think is the way to do it. And that's why I say, like, earnest money. I need you to let us hold about $500 billion to show that you're serious while we work out how, like, the trillions we need to actually make black communities whole. Which I think, so like my big push for cash reparations, insofar as they're necessary, is as earnest money. That means it's just money that shows that the U.S. government is serious. Because without any show that they're serious, we'll go out like we've always gone out. And like every other like entity that's had to deal with the U.S. government that then white people decided that they don't want to have to deal with. So we need some sort of show that you're serious, and that's what cash reparations does. It shows that you're serious. And then we can talk about the other institutional like funds and money that will actually make black people like fully self-determined communities in the United States. Because I understand if you just do cash reparations, but we don't own anything on the market, we don't have enough to produce anything on the market, and we can't decide what's produced. It just ends up going to like a white utility company. And it's only like $1,000 per Negro. So like that's just like clearing off some car debt. Give us some money to show that you're serious about like coming to the table about what we actually need, which is going to be in the trillions. Which is fine because we print money. We print like Donald Trump. Donald Trump goes bankrupt. He goes to we print money. So it'll be great.
7 times he's gone bankrupt.
7 times.
7 times.
He's gone bankrupt?
Yep.
Yeah, there was a great talk on bankruptcy. Elizabeth Warren gave to the Federalist Society. This was back in 91. And it was funny because she was like, well, bankruptcy is not really a government thing. It's just 2 private entities working out. I was like, well, it's only that way because you decided it was that way. It could be theft. It could be theft of services. Like, we decided that since white people go bankrupt, that we're going to just make it a civil process where, like, we can work it out. We could do that with all property crime. We could do that with all property crime. Because I want to say half the Negroes in jail for some variety of property crime are there, because they needed it. Hold on. Like, we know people who spent some time for, like, kite flying. There's nothing that, like, you shouldn't be able to, like, you shouldn't have to go to jail for writing a bad check. Kite flying. Wow.
Oh, is that what? Oh, okay. When you use the term,
kite flighting,
check fraud official check.
Bouncing a check. Yeah.
Bouncing a
You
check.
shouldn't have to, like, there are people who spend time in jail for bouncing a check.
Yeah. I'm one of them.
All of that, like, that's just black life through instability. But we could decriminalize all that just like we decriminalize white bankruptcy. We just choose not to. We choose not to. We could consider bankruptcy property crime. Like, that's like, you promised me something? And, like, it's for the sake of society. It's not just not just a private deal between 2 people. For the sake of society, I'm going to have to, punish you. We could do that. We don't. So if we're going to decriminalize, like, white failures to make good on promises, we need to decriminalize black failures to make good on promises regarding money and property. So we could decriminalize it all, but we don't. We decriminalize white failures, and we just make that like a government-influenced civil thing, because there's still, like, government mediators and, like, courts, and it's not as if it's not a government issue. We've just socialized white risk, whereas we privatize black risk in a way that's unbecoming, I feel like. So, ADOS conference was fantastic. We got to all go. I forgot one of Kevin Cosby's, Reverend Dr. Kevin Cosby's funny lines. He was like, look, you got to watch out. Gentrification is like fornication. Someone's getting screwed. And lastly, Matthew and I had one of the best conversations when we were walking out to the car. So we ran into two cats. And we were just talking. And there are a lot of ADOS people are ex-military. It's good. A lot of yoked 70-year-olds.
I didn't. Good.
I've never been in a room with so many yoked 70-year-olds.
I felt very secure. I felt very secure.
I was looking at the pictures, wondering if those were younger guys, because I couldn't tell. I'm like, everybody's swole.
Yoked. Like 65 and 70-year-old, like down with ADOS. And I was like, yeah. Well, there was also, like, I think a higher than average ex-military presence. Because, a lot of us go into the service. And then, but what was funny was I was talking to one cat, and he was like, I'm not going to be honest. I heard this at a church. I had my gun with me.
I mean, a bunch of black people in a church, I'd bring a gun.
I'm
not worried about the black people. I'm worried about where the white people are.
I brought a gun with me. And then in that same conversation, mind you, this conversation was between me, Matthew, and two cats. In that same conversation, the other guy said, I had mine with me too. And there were like 1,500 people at this conference. How many of them were strapped?
I mean,
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, like
this guy's in the line of the conference. Yeah, I wasn't gonna go out like the people in the last church. Dylan was gonna get fucked up today. Dylan was not gonna. And then the other guy said, "Yep." Dylan Roof was gonna get messed up today.
If you are unaware, there is a great organization called Black Guns Matter. Look them up.
And so if these two cats, random cats,
They're just hoping.
they were like that was like we were prepared. Like
They shoot back. They shoot back.
Yeah.
They shoot
you guys
back.
were gonna shoot back.
What we not gonna have is a case of y'all walking in here and slaughtering us.
No. And these were two randoms at the conference, which means that like a third of the conference was packing, and like just nobody knew, and which was hilarious. I felt very safe. And he straight up said Dylan Roof is gonna get messed up today, and people tried to come.
He ain't going to no Burger King after this one.
No. And to which I was appreciative.
I bet.
So that was funny. So Matthew, what did you think of the conference?
Oh, it was excellent. One thing you didn't bring up is that Cornel West was talking about Obama, and he said that Obama was a symbolic indictment of white supremacy, but that we need substance with it too. A lot of people think you can just put like random black people in powers of position and just have them reorganize everything.
Talk a
but
little slowly, Matthew. This is good stuff.
yeah. A lot of people think that you can put black people in positions of power and then just have them do whatever. It'll be good for all black people. But unless they are willing to have like a black agenda in mind, are willing to be able to put other black people in positions of power as well, and put them in positions of freedom, then you're not going to have anything that's actually substantive. You need not a person like Obama, but a person like Iremy, or a person like Fred Hampton, or a person like Martin Luther King, someone who's actually going to be serious about putting other black people on top. You can't just have random black people do whatever they want.
Yeah, we need black people who are about poor black people. Like I always say, if you need to tell me how it's going to work with the CNAs, for the CNAs, the certified nursing assistants, and the bus drivers and the people who pick up stuff, because if it's not working for them, it's not going to work for me. That's where we're at. And I don't want to hear about how it works for the bougie black people. I want to hear about how it works for the CNAs. I want to hear about how it works for the bus drivers. I want to hear about how it works for the sanitation workers, because that's us, and they do good work. And with that, I'm going to let you go. I'll see you next week. Peace.